Welcome back. As we earlier talked about Egypt joining the Fund for Export Development in Africa, which is a vital step to be able to enhance our economy and our aspirations in markets in Africa, open markets that are opening its wings wide open for the Egyptian products, the Egyptian trade. And this is, of course, going to be our topic, of course, Reem, and our guest is live over the phone.
Yes, we have over the phone Mr. Abdul Latif Wahba, the ministerial journalist. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, yeah.
I welcome you into the breakfast show, and first of all, we need to know more about the Fund for Exports, the Fund for Export Development in Africa. What is the importance of Egypt's membership in this impact?
As you know that Egypt is one of the main pillars in all the African utilities, and at the same time, as you know that we are supporting according to the directions of President Abdul al-Sisi and the new Egyptian foreign policy toward Africa, to participate in all the economic summits and the conventions in Africa. This is, of course, comes through the financial bodies like like the Fund for Export Development. This is, of course, to achieve integrity and the unity for the African countries. As you know that during many decades, the African countries depended upon the European countries and so on to take or import what they need for their economy. And at the same time, as you know, the foreign countries got the useful things from the African countries, especially in natural resources and so on. So this fund is to achieve integrity and cooperation and the communications between the African states.
Right. Good morning, Mr. Abdul Latif. And my it's a real pleasure to have you, sir, with us. My second question to you, sir, is a real definition of the Fund for African Development. This is a very important step taken by Egypt at this time, as we know that the world is going through crisis. People are, the hike in prices and everything, and in order to enhance our economy, to give it a boost, Egypt is constantly promoting for itself in markets in the region. And Africa is one of the very wide open markets, very encouraging markets for Egyptian products and Egyptian trades. So if you would give us a definition about the Fund for African Development, its targets and its aims.
As you know that the world and the many countries all in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, they are suffering from the economic problems just now, especially after the escalations of the war in the Middle East, and at the same time the Houthis tried to abandon and hold navigations through the Red Sea. Egypt in this point asked, or according to President Fattah al-Sisi, to ask the African countries to communicate, to cooperate, especially in this critical time. This is, of course, Egypt has many incentives at the same time to, especially in the factories, fabricated goods, and many other commodities that can be exported to the African countries. And at the same time, as you know, that Egypt is trying to post, as you mentioned, its export during the current time. This is not useful not only for the Egyptian economy, but for changing the past image of Egypt in Africa, when they said that Egypt paid its attention to the European and the Asian countries and so on, and left Africa. But according to the foreign policy of President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi, he asked and directed all the ministries in Egypt to go toward the African states. And as you know that in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example, they established a new fund for financing and helping the African countries, especially in restorations of the main infrastructures, in achieving or promoting and developing the basic infrastructures like health, education, transportation, energy, power, and so on. And we, as Egypt, adopted a new way to ask the foreign countries and the foreign donations and the international financial institutions to participate in establishing green energy power in African states. And you remember exactly when President Fattah al-Sisi told before that the African countries mustn't pay the bill twice. As you know, during the colonial period, and now some of the foreign countries are trying to exploit the natural resources of the African states. So it is the responsibility of the foreign institutions, financial institutions, and international institutions to participate in rehabilitating the African infrastructures again.
Yes, sir, and also it is very important to know more about how can this impact influence the Egyptian market and support the SMEs? As you know that Dr. Mustafa Madbouli a few days ago held a cabinet meeting with Dr. Rania Al-Mashad, the Minister of Planning and International Cooperation, and they stressed on the point related to the foreign investment. So how can this impact on Egypt's membership in the Fund for Exports Development in Africa, support the SMEs in Egypt, and be beneficial to the Egyptian market?
Let us say that firstly that the small business projects and so on is one of the main pillars for the economy, not only in the African states or in Egypt, but even in the developed countries like Germany, like India, like Indonesia, and so on, and China at the same time. You see that they are very clever in small business. Why? Because it is easy to fabricate, and at the same time it's more easier for export, and can attract the graduated from the colleges, universities, and so on. So in Egypt, at the same time, we paid attention for the small business. And during the last period, for example, President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi launched many initiatives for the small businesses, like IBDA, like your project مشروعك, and so on. This is, of course, easy to export our experience to Africa, and to increase our export from this, from the output of this project to the African states. And we have to say that the African states at the same time are searching for the cheaper goods. This is, of course, according to their income, according to their gross domestic products, and so on.
Right. Mr. Abdul Latif, as we know that, again, repeating, at this time where the world is going through crisis and wars, not only in the West but also in the Middle East, Egypt, as usual, or the Egyptian administration, is thinking out of the box. And amidst all those hard situations, all the hard situations that we are surrounded with in the neighboring countries, we're still working hard on developing and enhancing and empowering our economy, and extending our hands to our brothers in Africa, and joining the Fund for Export Development in Africa is a step taken by Egypt to enhance its economy on many fronts. What are the chances awaiting the Egyptian market in Africa, the Egyptian trade, and the partnerships with different African nations when it comes to that step?
Let us say first that Egypt and the Egyptian businessmen, for example, has many different projects and investments in African countries, in many countries, even in Ethiopia itself, and the other African states. This is, of course, an important element for Egyptian economy, and at the same time you are exporting your experience, not only goods, like for example, the huge contractors like المقاولون العرب and so on. المقاولون العرب, for example, or Arab contractors, has a great famous in African states. they established the main infrastructures in many different African countries. Even the presidential palaces in many countries at the same time, bridges, and also dams in Tanzania, electro dams in Tanzania, for example. This mega project attracted that at the same time the small business, the logistics for these companies to accompany them in African states. So we can consider this an Egyptian export for the African states. This is one. In another sections, for example, or sectors like education, health, and so on, although Egypt donated in many countries, especially in this field, in health, in education, but at the same time, they have their small businesses in African countries, like Kenya, like South Africa, like Cote d'Ivoire, like many countries. We have small businesses there. So we can consider the small business is one of the main pillars for the Egyptian economy, not only inside Egypt but outside at the same time.
Yes, so Mr. Abdul Latif, it is also very important to our viewers to know what are the main Egyptian exports to African countries and what are the anticipated Egyptian exports to African countries that might take place in different agreements. As you know that according to the Egyptian agenda and according to many officials and many press conferences held earlier, it is very important in the Egyptian agenda to increase the exports or the rate of export in general. So tell us more please about the exports to Africa that are taking place currently and the ones that you anticipate will take place in the next period of time.
You are, as Egypt, you are a member in all the African economic bodies, and at the same time you have to exploit your mutual agreement, bilateral agreement with the other countries or with the countries of these utilities bodies. So Egypt has agreement with many different African states. It depends upon, for example, exporting the Egyptian goods to their markets, and at the same time to help them in a joint venture and the projects in these countries. If you go to any African state, you will find an Egyptian maybe factory or a hospital or educational institutions and so on. This is important. But at the same time, we are now concentrating upon the commodities. Why? Because as we said, these countries depended in many decades upon the foreign countries in Europe, for example, for exporting their foods and their meats and so on. But now we have food industries, we have agri-industries, and by the way, We have many agricultural projects in many different African countries, especially in Kenya.
Right. On that note, of course, Mr. Abdul Latif Wahba, the political and economic analyst, would like to thank you, sir, talking to us on the breakfast show. Thank you so much. And of course, Reem, we're going to go to a short break and we'll come back to you, so stay with us.